How's it going, everybody? This is Dominic Minchella. I am the Kansas City Chiefs beat writer for OnSI and the host of the Kansas City Chiefs Insider Podcast. I hope you guys are having a great day today whenever you are stopping in. So we are recording this as of training camp for the Kansas City Chiefs ending, and it is, let me say, it's been a wonderful training camp. We've seen a lot of progression, a lot of improvement, and a lot of things to look forward to going into the regular season. As we know, the Kansas City Chiefs will face off against the Seattle Seahawks in their second preseason game, and then they also have the Chicago Bears in their future as well, before they face off against their AFC West division rivals, the Los Angeles Chargers in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I hope that you guys enjoyed training camp. I think the players did. They sure looked like they did. They were out there working in the heat. But even then, once they get to Kansas City and they're playing all these primetime games, as the weather continues to decrease, they are going to feel like they're wanting to play in St. Joe's heat again. Maybe not with all those pads, but definitely the heat. But with that being said, today's podcast episode, we are going to dive in and break down three of the biggest takeaways from training camp. Now, the offseason, this is a big step for the Chiefs. They came into the offseason with a lot of things that they needed to address, heavily being the offensive line. The defensive side of the ball was also a priority. But I think that the Chiefs have been able to do exactly what they have needed to in order to kind of silence the doubters early on as they go into the regular season. Of course, they can only do so much talking. It's time to prove it. They do have a tough first stretch of 9 weeks with their schedule, but then if they can come across or out of that with a winning record, the Chiefs might as be a team to be feared as they continue on in hopes to get to their 10th AFC West division title in a row. And, who knows, potentially a fourth straight Super Bowl appearance. But today, here are my three biggest takeaways from the Kansas City Chiefs training camp. The first one that I have written down is Josh Simmons. He is the real deal. There was a lot of concern and speculation of whether or not the Kansas City Chiefs were going to let him slide in the first round of the 2025 NFL draft, much like the other 31 NFL franchises did. But as we have seen since rookie minicamp into OTAs through training camp now, I think that the Kansas City Chiefs are kind of looking at the other franchises and saying, you messed up on a terrific player. Now, I hold him to a high standard, as I've talked about in the past before, because he is a first-round pick. He will always be held as a former first-round pick. We have seen guys in the National Football League who have been former first-round picks that just do not live up to the expectations. And that's also in any sport across the major four in the United States, that is. But Josh Simmons, a guy who was passed up on by 31 other teams due to his injury suffered with the Ohio State Buckeyes, landed with the Kansas City Chiefs almost in their lap, really. They traded back to the 32nd pick, and they still got this guy. I would have assumed that if he would have fallen out of the first round, he would have been a top second-round pick, even if a franchise didn't necessarily need an offensive lineman. But given that the Chiefs did, especially that he's been playing, is known as a left tackle, the Chiefs need help on that left side of the football. I do think that going into the remainder of the offseason into the regular season, that Josh Simmons has a strong chance of being that starting left tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. While he still might be rotated with Jalen Moore at that position, coming out of college, and especially with an injury, a lower injury where all the strength is for a guy at his position, and has just been explosive. He's gotten compliments from both sides of the football, from the offensive side where he is on their side protecting Patrick Mahomes, and even from the defensive side of the ball, even Chris Jones is saying, he's a fierce competitor. I think the Kansas City Chiefs got a steal with him being the final pick in the first round. And the Chiefs organization have high hopes for him. Fingers crossed that he can carry in over his success from the offseason and training camp into the regular season campaign. I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope you guys are too. That's a huge takeaway, especially because there was doubts of whether he could or couldn't be the player to fix that offensive line need. Number 2, this one isn't as big as the Josh Simmons topic, but it could definitely be if it continues. And that's the injuries. I wrote down injury issues hasn't haunt the Chiefs. Last season we saw a lot on the offensive side of the football that there was a lot of injuries that hindered them from being that explosive team as we had seen in the past. But keep in mind, just because that they weren't an explosive team does not mean that they weren't a terrific team. This team, there's been a lot of talk throughout the entirety of the offseason. This team won 15 games and is arguably one of the worst offensive groups for Patrick Mahomes to work with. And they still won 15 games. They went 15-1, really. They didn't really try their last game. And I think that, while they were able to escape through multiple injuries last season, injuries have haunted them through training camp, whether it be veterans like Hollywood Brown, or also on the defensive side of the ball, we've seen Janarius Robinson go down to a foot fracture, as well as Deon Bush. Jake Brenningstool, undrafted tight end, free agent from Clemson. I think that, while these certain players don't stand out, I was like, oh, it's not that big of a hit. Depth in the National Football League, especially early on in the season while you're still trying to find your footing, is crucial. While you do got Rashee Rice back, assumingly that he won't get suspended for multiple games, or like 8 to 10 games, that is, you have him returning from injury. It's likely that if Hollywood Brown is able to kind of progress through this ankle injury that he has, is going to be an offensive weapon early and often for Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs can't afford to have another big injury on the offensive side of the ball, because who knows if Travis Kelce is going to continue his declining play. Last season, we haven't seen a whole lot, and I think that it is important to note. A team with a great depth in the youth that they have, they can get it done. They have a great head coach. They have a great quarterback. However, even the best needs a supporting cast. And if the Chiefs aren't having a lot of guys being healthy, especially on the offensive side of the ball, it could be a problem. And the third biggest takeaway that I wrote down is that the Kansas City Chiefs rookie class of 2025 is damn good. They are looking great. The Kansas City Chiefs, they have stayed at the top of the NFL mountain due to the fact that they are great at drafting. A lot of their players that they have currently on the roster stem from homegrown growth. They've even extended players. If you show enough as a draft pick for the Kansas City Chiefs, and if you're a good player both on and off the field, it's likely that the franchise is going to want to keep you around for the future. Whether it be Josh Simmons, Omar Norman-Lott, Ashton Gelati, Noel Williams, Jeffrey Bassa, Jalen Royals, and Brashard Smith, that group in itself, I know that they're big names right now. They still have a lot of growth to do. But I do think that what we've seen thus far in the offseason, both in training camp and against the Arizona Cardinals, while it was a small sample size for every player that was involved from the rookie class, I do think that there's a lot of potential that this group is able to carry over the success and kind of mold themselves into the future of the Kansas City Chiefs style of football. I am very much looking forward to see how they are going to get used, especially down the line of the regular season. It's likely, though, that they're going to be getting a lot of snaps against the Seattle Seahawks, just because it allows them to have go up against either offenses or defenses at the professional level, guys that they haven't seen before. It's a big jump from the collegiate level into the National Football League, but this rookie class could go down, the 2025 rookie class for the Kansas City Chiefs. they might be one of the best, and only time will tell. But with that being said, those are my 3 biggest training camp takeaways. As always, you can follow me over at X at Dom Minchella. I post and repost every single day. You're not going to want to miss anything as we get into the remainder of the offseason, into the regular season. Kansas City Chiefs on SI is a place to get your news. You can also follow us over at KC Chiefs on SI on X as well. If you don't have time to stop in and look up the website, a lot of our stories, almost every single one, gets published exclusively free for you, the Chiefs Kingdom. That being said, as always, be kind to one another, and I will see you tomorrow.